Waiting for next year's CavsCast, as always, part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. It is Thursday evening, March 20th, and I am joined by good luck charm, Joe Gilbert, who was in the building for the dominant Cavs win on Tuesday night. Joe, welcome. How was the atmosphere on Tuesday?
Oh, it was awesome. I missed it, man. We were talking before. I missed that kind of environment, and playoff basketball is one of those unique events, and it was rocking in Rocket Mortgage.
The atmosphere was incredible, and I didn't see Spike Lee there on the baseline. He
Yeah, I
wasn't there,
don't
was he?
think no, like half the Browns team was, but yeah, I don't think Spike was there.
I saw Myles Garrett post game,
Yeah,
and he's one of the few that can make basketball players look small. He gave DG a hug, and you couldn't even see DG after
right.
Myles hugged him. So.
Right. Yeah, yeah. He was sitting with Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome, I think it was, and Deshaun Watson was there. Amari Cooper. It was a whole and our former Larry Nance was there too.
That's right. Yeah, if he wants to join the playoff roster, that'd be
I
okay with
know.
me.
we need a power forward off the bench there. That'd be nice.
Nice. He's a good assist guy, good
Oh yeah.
rebounder. Yeah, he'd be
Oh
perfect.
yeah.
Well, we got a lot to break down. I want to recap the first two games, kind of go through what maybe surprised us, disappointed us, or surprised us through the first two. Expectations for Game 3 tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. We've got a great deal with Underdog Fantasy for first-time depositors. Enter in the code WFNY at checkout, and Underdog will match your deposit up to $100. Underdog is a great platform if you're tired of the DFS salary system. There are tons of game types and drafts every night of the week for every sport. Don't forget, use WFNY at checkout to get your first-time deposit matched up to $100. So, Joe, bouncing into just a recap of the first two games, I was hoping we could go through a few things that maybe you liked and that you didn't like. Anything come to mind in terms of things that you maybe liked from the Cavs perspective through the first two?
I love the fight that they came back with. It could have been troubling if after that first game you kind of you don't play, but you play kind of your worst game that you could think of, and you lose a close one, and then you have to think about it for what, 2 games. It's your second playoff game for most of the guys on the roster, and it was great to see them kind of fight back and play one of their better games of the season. Um, so it was great to see that, and just the defense getting back to where the level we've seen it at was awesome. The first game wasn't bad defensively. They just couldn't score. But the second game that was one of the best defensive performances of the season. Like where they scored 39 in the first half, like that's crazy. That was fun to watch.
Man, we were talking in Discord during the game. I've never seen Darius defend like that.
Yes, that was huge. He
Man.
he was like half the. It's all about effort with him. He has to try hard, like on defense, because he's obviously not physically imposing or anything like that. But he's a smart player, and he's quick as heck. So he can move with anybody. He just has to kind of have that effort. And man, it was huge. That might have been the biggest jolt in the game. There was when he was I forget who it was. He forced a turnover on in the first half, and he got the building going. So if we can see that for all the rest of the series and the playoffs, Cavs are in a great position if he can play that well.
Yeah, the defense, I think one of the turnovers he forced, it might not have been the one you're referencing, but he played some incredible defense on Quickly. He took
Mm.
a charge at some point. I mean, he was just locked in. And we were talking about how important it was for him to play well, not only defensively, but also offensively. And man, he came and answered the bell on Tuesday night. He was just incredible. You mentioned the defense. There was just so many more hands. It felt like there were like 6 or 7 Cavaliers on the court at different times in game 2. They were just all over the place. Throughout the first 2 games, Knicks have shot like 25, 26% from three, under 40% from the field through the two games if you combine the stats. So you're exactly right. The fact that they lost a tough game in game one, a lot of shots weren't falling, but the defense, it was flying. Game one and game two, they just unfortunately gave up too many boards in game one. And
Yep.
the one thing I wrote down here with game two was we saw some full court press from the defense, which caused a turnover. We saw the Cavs kind of help and blitz Brunson a little bit more than
Yeah.
just letting Chetty go one-on-one with him, which wasn't necessarily a recipe for success in game
No.
one. So I think we talked about, we liked what JB did, at least defensively, threw some different things at him, tried to not let Brunson kind of get to that like left elbow area, which he seems to like after his little push off. He loves pulling up in that left elbow area. So it's some nice, defensive adjustments. But of course, here comes the counterpunch, right? The Knicks saw what the Cavs did game two. Thibs is going to be coming with something for game three, you'd have to think, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I thought the adjustments on defense were awesome. Trapping, kind of pushing Brunson out, so he has to go around, go wide, to get to the basket. That was great. Just being aggressive on him. You got to be aggressive on Brunson, or else he'll just force it down your throat. he's sort of a bully kind of with the ball, and he can really kill you if you kind of back away from him. So I love that aggressiveness for him. And then I thought what they did against Randall was awesome. They didn't really. It was actually kind of they sort of didn't respect him that much. Like they put Danny Green on him for quite a while, and they didn't get burned. Like I think they know that he's not 100%, and they didn't put like their best defender on. Evan obviously covered him for a lot of it, but they relied on like Danny Green to kind of guard him up, because he's if you want him, you don't want him kind of being a bully down low. You want him to have to kind of use his dribbling is probably not his best move, and playmaking. So if you force him to kind of have to dribble and kind of makes plays with off the dribble, that's a reason definitely successful there. So I thought their defensive plan against Randall was big. So it'll be interesting to see how the Knicks kind of go off of those two adjustments going into game three.
Yeah, that's one thing that stood out to me is, of course, the Knicks have the advantage from a size perspective down low, especially when they get in their depth with Hartenstein coming off the bench and Hart able to rebound. But they don't have any great playmakers. I guess Hartenstein can move the ball a little, but in terms of their top two, Robinson and Randall, they're not great passers, and that's something that the Cavaliers bigs are. I mean, you'll never see a big to big pass like Jay and Evan will do with Robinson. When Robinson gets the ball, around the free throw line, he doesn't know what to do with it. He's looking to get rid of it as soon as possible. So
there's an ugly possession where he was like wide open at like the free throw line. He had no idea what to do. Like he didn't dribble. I forget what it ended up, but I think it ended up in like just a terrible possession. But yeah, you kind of want to force the ball out of Brunson's hands, and then into kind of a second, see if anybody else can. Obviously, Emmanuel quickly can do it, but they haven't really played together, which is weird. So I wonder if that's an adjustment for them, but it's going to be interesting because they have no other playmakers on the floor when Brunson is all by himself out there.
Yep. Yeah, this Knicks team, it kind of resembles like an old Cavalier team, obviously to a much lesser degree, but this feels like, if Brunson's got it, it's going to be kind of ISO ball, and maybe he's doing his thing and trying to hit someone, or he's just taking his shot.
Difference between that is he's not 6'8", 250.
Yeah, he's stocky, but 6'1" is 6'2", different than 6'8", 6'9".
Right.
We brought up the big guys. This is one thing I wanted to ask you, Joe. What's your thoughts on how Evan Mobley's played through the first two? Obviously, we talked a lot about he needs to be better game one. How do you think he responded in game two?
I think he struggled for 6 straight quarters, and then I thought the second half, I thought he was great. He kind of really got into just being aggressive and not being scared of these guys. He looked a little timid against in the first game, especially. He didn't. It just seemed like he was kind of shying away from the contact. And then the second half, we saw, I don't know how many dunks he had, 4 or 5. He was being aggressive towards the rim, and that's the best Evan Mobley right there. You just got to be aggressive, not be afraid to get contact and kind of force your way into the hoop. So yeah, it was. It's not surprising. That's what he's 20 years old, second year in the league, first playoff series, first 6 quarters you struggle, and you kind of have to get your foot, and it looks like he did in the second half of the game too.
Yeah, no doubt. When the game started, I was kind of like, "Uh-oh, are we in for
Yeah,
another tough game?" He took a couple shots that were off, but then he definitely got through. And we were talking again in Discord. We got to get him an easy bucket. And then, like you said, I think he had 3 or 4 dunks in the second half. Some great feeds. One from JA, some big to big passing from JA.
yep.
Darius hit him with one. He had 2 blocks and 2 steals, as well in the second game as well. So I think, yeah, it seemed like he got a little bit more comfortable. That'll be a guy. Obviously, we'll all have. Have our eyes peeled on for, first away playoff game, in New York. I think will be really interesting to see how he plays. Well, there was one last thing, Joe, I was hoping to talk through when we talk about kind of historical, the first 2 games. The Cavs rotation, man, it is all over the place. There are guys that we
Is there
expect.
a rotation, or is it
Yeah,
just kind of like throwing out there whatever works?
yeah. I don't know if maybe there's like one of those wheels where like maybe just rings it and like whoever it
Right.
falls on, it's like, all right, come on, get up.
Like even just out of like the regular season to the playoffs, it was a completely different. Like Dean Wade didn't play for the last 3 months or 2 months, and he started he was the 7th guy off the bench in game 1. So yeah, it's I think obviously some of it I think is JB. I don't know if I don't. It just seems like he's been kind of struggling with his rotation, and then obviously there's just the lack of options is another problem. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they go with in game 3.
That's the interesting thing to me. It's like, yeah, you know, there's a lot of different options, but just to
Yeah,
be a candid Cavaliers fan, none of them are home runs. I think
yeah,
that's why JB's having to search so much. It's like, well, do I play Ricky Rubio, who doesn't look like his normal self? Do I play
yeah,
Dean Wade, who doesn't look like his normal self? Okoro has struggled, in recent games with his
yeah.
shot. Danny Green and Chetty played 43 minutes combined
That's
last
wild.
game. So you didn't expect that going into the playoffs. At least I didn't, I should say.
Yeah, yeah. It looked like I'm thinking we're going to see pretty similar to game 2. Um, I don't think we're going to see Dean Wade the rest of the series. I just don't. I don't know if he's playable anymore. At least until the offseason where he can get healthy. His shot is gone. like like Okoro has a shot. He just kind of the confidence goes up and down, but like Dean Wade just can't shoot. like his shoulder is so messed up. It seems like, and he's just not comfortable shooting. So he's kind of worthless. And then Rubio is another guy. They're probably in the same boat. They just aren't healthy. They're just coming off injuries and they're just not healthy. So I think they'll probably go with the Chetty, Levert, Danny Green, and I think Okoro stays in. Um, I think it was kind of more of a got in foul trouble in the first half, and then they were just going with a hot hand. Because Levert was Levert might have been the play of the game if Darius wasn't playing. like he was great. He was great in game 2. So I think that's probably your group there off the bench, and yeah, I'm surprised he didn't go with Stevens. Stevens seems like his little safety net, but he hasn't been shown yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, surprise stat of the night. Levert actually was the minutes leader for the Cavaliers
Wow.
from last game. So he played 40 minutes and he was higher
Yeah.
than Mobley. He was higher than Garland, Mitchell. I mean, he was on fire. 56%
Mhm.
from the field. He made 4 threes. He had a couple of rebounds, 3 assists, only 2 turnovers, and he sure handled the ball a lot. So that's
Yeah.
actually a nice little segue. Maybe we'll wrap up with our analysis of the first 2. Anything that significantly surprised you, and I'll kick one and then give you a second to think about it. But one thing that surprised me, I think most was maybe it shouldn't have as much because of the ankle injury, but Josh Hart Joe, if you had to guess what Josh Hart's plus minus was last game, what would you guess it
Oh,
was after an
because
incredible game one?
because they show it on the board up top. It's like 20 or something, right? It's like 25.
Minus 29 when Josh Hart
Yeah.
was on the floor.
He was bad. Like he was so good in game one, and he was just invisible in game two. And it was, yeah, I was, you could definitely tell he was hurt. Like
Yep.
he was not the same player.
You know, when a away team comes in and wins one of the first two games as the lower seed, they kind of, everyone says they kind of did their job, chalked it up.
Yeah,
Looking back, it's like, should they have played Josh Hart 27 minutes? I'm not so sure. He might have done well to
yeah,
give him some rest and get him ready for three.
yeah. That was weird. It was the whole thing was weird. Like he was doubtful. What was it the day before, and then
Yeah.
the during the shoot around he turned into questionable, and like it was weird. It was one of those things I feel like Tibbs might have just kind of forced him in there, and I don't think he should have done that because he was not good. He was just not good.
Yeah, you no matter what sport it is, I guess specifically when I talk basketball or football, you very, very rarely ever see the doubtful all the way to,
Yeah,
available. And he played significant. It's like, okay, that seemed a little strange. A little strange.
especially the day before.
Right. Right.
Like, and then especially with him, he's all about athleticism. Like his ability to get to the rim, get rebounds. Like that's a big thing with him, and it's surprising that they kind of put him out there. But we'll see how that affects them the rest of the series.
Yeah. Yeah. That's ultimately, don't want to see any injuries, but ultimately that's a big thing for the Cavaliers if he's not full go.
Yep.
Um, one other thing that surprised me too, is just, we heard so much about Emmanuel quickly and maybe him having to be like the fifth or sixth best guy in the series for the Knicks to have a chance. And man, outside of some garbage time minutes in game two, where has Quickly been? Like he has not made an impact in this series at all so far.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He's been. He was one of the guys I was kind of a little scared about because he's a quick guy. He can shoot, and that's kind of the recipe that kind of goes after the Cavs defense. And he's been, not not very visible at all. And I wonder. That's why I wonder if they're kind of switch it up in game three, see if they put them together because they got to get more playmaking on the floor because it's either one or the other that's on the floor, and that's your playmakers. Like you got literally not much other options out there for him.
Yeah, between him and Grimes, I mean, those are two guys I was pretty worried about coming into the series, and it's
Yeah,
1-1. The Knicks did their job. I'm not saying I'm
yeah,
not worried about the Cavs,
oh yeah,
but it's just surprised me that neither one of them have really, made any kind of impact.
yeah. Well, it's pretty similar to our guys. This is what their first series in the playoffs too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so they're probably kind of a little bit nervous too, and you'll definitely obviously how often you see the role players play well at home. So I expect them to play better, but how much better is the key to kind of where the series goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And maybe we'll transition to, I mean, expectations. So when you look back at the first two games, Cavs, they had to fight back in the fourth quarter in game one, ultimately lost it, just couldn't get a rebound. Lost by, what was it, 4 points? So it was a close game. Game two, obviously they blew the Knicks out. And frankly, pretty, as close to a much must-win game as it gets when you're down 0-1 at home. So just in terms of game three, what are your expectations in terms of any changes you think that could happen or just environment, anything you're kind of looking out for game three?
This is a wild card, man. I have no idea. I have no expectations for this. Like because it just like the difference between game one and two are just so vast. Like I don't know which Cavs team kind of shows up, and especially this is the first road game they've ever probably faced. Obviously, it's Madison Square Garden. I don't think the people are going to talk about the atmosphere. Like it's going to be like it's Madison Square Garden, so it comes with that. But like I feel like it's not going to be as loud as you like or other places because you get all those kind of rich guys that kind of buy the if you have the more like rich people, you're not going to get as like rowdy crowd. So I don't think it's going to be like some crazy atmosphere, but It's still going to be their first road game. It's going to be Madison Square Garden, so the lights are going to be on. It's going to be bright, so it's going to be interesting to see how Evan plays, how Darius plays. I think the key for the rest of the season or rest of the series will be Darius. It's what Darius comes up. Is it the aggressive one that we saw in game 2, or is it the kind of passive, didn't shoot in the fourth quarter of game 1? Because if we see aggressive Darius, I think it's a sweep after this. I don't see them beating us if they have Donovan and Darius going like that. Because it's hard to compete when they have Brunson, and then Randall is hampered, and everybody else is kind of second fiddle there. So if Darius plays aggressively, I think it's series sweep after this.
Yeah, I'm going to be really interested to see if the Knicks decide to like double Darius and blitz him and help off, if they're going to try to take the ball out of his hands. Then does it become the Mitchell show again?
I feel like that would be the worst case scenario for the Knicks, because then Donovan is just eating you alive. Like that's they'll probably JB will probably love that. Like,
and Donovan showed he can make the passes.
Yeah.
What do you have? 12 assists last game.
Yeah,
so.
he's been so impressive. Like just the ability to change the way he played. Like I expected him to score 38 points again in game 2, but he was just amazing and just being a facilitator. His comments after the game were great. He's like he told Darius, like, you gotta be the aggressive guy. I can play off ball. I've done it in Utah, so just be you. And that was great kind of leadership there by Mitchell, and it kind of shows his greatness on this team.
Yep. Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, this is why you go out and you have that two-headed monster in the backcourt. I mean, this is why if you can't make it, kind of like probably what the Cavs did last game against Brunson when they're helping off of him and they're doubling him, blitzing him. It's like you're hard pressed to do that, because you're going to have a shooter wide open, whether it's Jetty, whether it's Danny Green, and then you can get the ball to either Darius or Donovan. So that's it should be a problem the Cavs can exploit. We'll see. Obviously, you can say the same thing for the Knicks. If the Cavs have Chetty and Danny on the court at the same time, you better be going at them with Quickly or going at them with Brunt, figuring out a way you can get matched up against those guys, because, we know they're not going to be those elite perimeter defenders. I love Danny Green, but man, he had a couple possessions where it's just like, oh boy, this is traffic cone-esque. This is not good. So we'll see if the Knicks try to exploit that if they play him again.
Yeah, that's why I think him playing bigger guys is probably the way to go for the Cavs. Like, he played Randall. That's not a guy that's going to beat you off the dribble as a smaller guy like that. But yeah, if he's going against like Brunson and like Quickly and any of the other guards, it's kind of scary hours there. So it'll be interesting to see if they start hunting him too. Playoffs is all about hunting the weakness. We saw it in game 1 where Okoro, they just didn't guard him, and they took care of business in game 1. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, and Joe, I liked your point about the blue collar and the white collar, and we talked about ticket prices, and we mentioned it's floor seats are $4 or $5 grand for the Knicks, up to 25. The Cavs, you can get floor seats for like $500, $600, $700 if you're patient. So it's a vast difference in
it's like 4 times the price. Like every seat, it's like 4 times the price of what you would get at the Cavs. So you can have that in Cleveland.
This is a blue collar podcast, man. We get into you can get in for $100. It's great.
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I do have kind of a closing segment. Is there anything else, Joe, before we hit that? Anything else you wanted to talk about or go through?
Yeah, I just expect in game 3, I just expect Mitchell to just go off, I think. I think it's one of those it's sort of like when LeBron played at Madison Square Garden. You just take it to another level, it seems like, and I expect Mitchell to kind of come out there and play well. And then just going back to game 2, The one of the other differences I thought was they just didn't seem scared as much, like especially Jay and Evan. Um, like they rebound with physicality, and then if they didn't get the rebound, the guards would come help and just kind of they would use their hands to kind of swipe it away. I don't know how many times that Mitchell or Randall would come down with a rebound and then they would just swipe it away and kind of get the loose ball. So that's kind of the key. If you're not going to win at the rim with the rebounds, at least you gotta when they bring it down, you gotta kind of scrap for it. And that was part of the energy kind of thing with Darius and all that. That they kind of swarm to the ball, which they need to do the rest of the series because this team can kill you on the boards, and if you don't have the effort to match them.
You made a great point about, I mean, how many times did we see either Robinson or Randall bring the ball down and Darius or Don were just swiping down? And
Yeah,
that's what you have to do. Like these guys outweigh Jay and Evan by what would you say, 30, 40, 50 pounds? I mean, they are
probably.
way bigger.
Well,
And
just
so,
based on Evan, who's a
yeah,
stick right now, still.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the amount of hands they were seeing was just unbelievable, and that yeah, I'll tell you what, man, there's nothing that infuriates a big guy more than when a little guy comes down and swipes it away from him. It's demoralizing, it's embarrassing to them.
Yeah.
They get pissed off when it happens, and so the Cavs have to just have to come down and just battle. And like you said, whenever that ball is down, battle, dig, 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 get after
Yeah.
the ball.
We saw the frustration in Randall. It
Yeah.
was all game. He was frustrated. He was getting. It was just. It's got to be frustrating. Like you just see a bunch of hands just coming at you down low, and it's got to be frustrating. I remember there was a rebound where it just like he kind of bounced around in his hands the whole time and went out of bounds. He was, yeah, that's the key to kind of. They're not going to win the boards because they're. It's just hard. Randall and Mitchell are two of the better rebounders in the league, especially Mitchell, who's one of the best offensive rebounders in the league. So you just it's gotta be a team effort and it's gotta be energy and effort. And if they show it the rest of the series, they'll be good shape.
Speaking of Randall being ticked off, your thoughts on the Jared Allen foul that was called a flagrant one, and JB kind of went back, after he's asked about it and was like, "Dude, they're playing hard. We're playing hard. We're not." To him, that wasn't a foul. What were your thoughts on it? Should Jay have kind of done it at that point in the game? Do you have any issue with it?
Oh, I had no issue. I loved it actually. I thought it kind of showed the mindset that they have, that the players are taking, that this is playoffs. They're not going to give anything easy. No shots, even if I think they're up 20 and it was what, like 2 or 3 minutes left. They were not going to give anything easy. So I just thought that was a great sign in terms of mindset. Um, Jay has always been like that. I think he's a guy that's always going to fight, no matter the time or the place. He's going to fight for it. It just kind of it was a good template to kind of keep going. Obviously, it was a hard foul, but it's a playoff foul. It wasn't a flagrant. It was, well, did they call it a flagrant? I think they
It
did.
they called it a flagrant one,
Yeah,
but I had problems with that. I mean, he kinda
yeah,
went down and it was over his shoulder. The ball's right here. It's not like he hit him
yeah.
in the head. I was
No,
very confused. I think the way he fell made it a flagrant. I
right,
don't agree with the actual foul being a flagrant at all.
right. I think the result kind of caused it to be a flagrant rather than the action. He and I don't really think he was. It seemed like he was more injured. His head was more injured. Like his kind of mind frame was more injured than rather his body, Randall. But whatever, it's a flagrant run. You kind of move on. But yeah, I love that he kind of did that, and it kind of shows that what they have to do. They have to nothing easy, nothing easy.
Yeah. Yeah, if that's the way the officials are gonna call the game, I mean, the Cavs have to match that. I completely 100% agree with you. You can't give up anything, especially after the Knicks kinda punched you in the mouth game 1. It's no, let's,
Right.
let them know that game 3, you're still coming. And that's,
Yeah.
to me, that's the biggest thing about game 3 is they have to come out physical because you went out and dominated them. It's 1-1. Technically, you're at the disadvantage at this point. There's more
Yeah.
home games in New
Yeah.
York
You
than
lost your home.
than
Yeah. You
Cleveland.
lost home field.
You got to come out desperate, and I hope that's what the Cavaliers can do.
Yeah.
Um, well, let's do this one last kind of closing segment here before we get out of here. Joe, can you give me who is obviously not the Donovan or Darius of the world, but who is your X factor if the Cavaliers can win tomorrow night? Who's the X factor you think could play a big part of it that may be a little bit under the radar?
I would say, yeah, that's a good question. I would say I'm coming across. I would say it's one of the two bigs. I think it's Evan or Jay. Evan, in terms of offense, if he can provide another kind of outlet on offense, that's huge. And then Jay just being the defensive and rebounding kind of force. I'll go with JA because I thought he was an X factor in game 2. He was dominant on the boards, and he didn't let anything easy on offense or on defense. So I'll go with JA.
Yeah, I like that. I think I'm going to go. It's a little gross, so you may want to plug your ears, plug your nose. But I think a guy that didn't shoot all that well was Jetty. He was 1 of 7 from 3, game 2. He was really one of the only guys that didn't play extremely well, but he took good shots. Like he was wide open on quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no problem with him. And I think if he can get hot, I mean, you're probably not going to get another, 23, 25-point game from Karras. If Chetty can chip in 10 to 12, make 2 or 3 threes, I think he's a guy that could really come in and help out, especially if Okoro gets some run. I could see, you need to have at least one other shooter if Ice is on the floor. So if it's Chetty, Darius, at some point Mitchell, if one of the bigs are sitting, which they often do because you can't sit both of them at the same time. So if you're playing Chetty at backup 4 minutes, I think if he can get hot, he could be a good X factor for tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm thinking about. Maybe you just bring that up. Maybe Okoro does come off the bench and kind of correlates when one of the bigs is off the floor, because then the spacing's not as wonky because you get at least it's almost like a power forward and a center on the floor. Yeah. And obviously it's great if he's making shots, but I could definitely see that. It's going to be so interesting to see who kind of comes out there in the starting lineup because I have no idea.
JB's been keeping us guessing all season, man. To your point, I can't wait to see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, yeah, that'll close us up for tonight. We obviously have 2 games this weekend, tomorrow night and Sunday at 1 p.m., I believe, Eastern time. Yeah. Yep. So we'll be back next week, hopefully early next week, to kind of break it down. Let's hope the fellas can go out to New York, at least get 1. 2 would be great, but I won't get too greedy. If they can get 1 out of 2, that'll get home court advantage back to Cleveland. Joe, last parts, anything else you want to mention before we hop off?
Hey, I'll be greedy. Let's go get 2, baby.
Let's go get 2. Let's end this thing in 5. Let's end this thing in 5.
I feel like game 3 is kind of, if they win, I think it's the series is over. I think they sweep the rest of the one, and then if they lose, it's anybody's game, man. It's gonna be fun.
Yep. The math's out there, man. The team that wins game 3 when it's 1-1, it's a huge advantage. Obviously, the team that wins game 5 when it's 2-2, it's a monster advantage. So, game 3 is a big one. Cavs got to figure it out. We appreciate everyone listening. We need to get to some chat thoughts and questions next time a little bit more. So that's on me. But appreciate everyone listening. We'll be back early next week. Thank you and have a great night.